Peace and love, family. Welcome. This is a special edition that we are putting together. Yeah, so today I wanted to touch on a few things, really give people a chance to possibly ask some questions dealing with more science. I'm gonna, let's see here. Okay, so I should be able to see your comments. I'm gonna try to stay on top of that. So I'm just going to start and I'm going to watch the chat. If anybody has any questions, just ask the question. If I see it, I will definitely do my best to answer your question. So let me start here. All right. So the topic of today's demonstration is Moorish Science Unveiled, a visual journey into ancient wisdom. Hopefully you can hear me. Getting rid of that music really quickly here. Let's see. All right, so let me get my picture out of here. So let's start here. Let's start at the beginning. Matter of fact, let me make sure I don't block out anything at all. Oh. There we go. All right, so hold on. Make sure I keep that chat open so I can see any questions. Give me 1 second, family. So this first slide, we can deal with a few things at once. Moorish, because we're dealing with topic again, Moorish Science Unveiled. Let me show that again. So we're just going to start with the first. What is Moorish science, right? So Moorish, and you get a lot of people that have various thoughts about the term ish and how that can be applied and how it is applied. But as we can see here, Moorish, the actual definition, relating to or characteristic of the Moors, meaning it's like ish is of the thing. Okay. It is the thing or it's of the thing. And the example they use here is Moorish Spain. Okay. And since it's an adjective, it's describing Moors. Okay. Let's move to the next slide. Science. Okay. The systematic study of the structure and behavior of the physical and natural world through observation, experimentation, and the testing of theories against the evidence obtained. So, Moorish science is essentially the systematic study of Moors. And if you are a Moor, it is technically the study of self. So when you hear someone say, know thyself, if you're a Moor, you should be studying Moorish science so that you can better know thyself. So let's go to the next slide. Again, let me keeping the chat open for any potential questions. Now, maybe I should do it like this. All right. So more. This is a definition that I think a lot of people are very familiar with. We'll break it down and we'll get deeper into it as time goes. Let me see something real quick, guys. Hold on one second. Okay. So, Moor, now North African Berber, late 14th century from Old French Moor, maybe more in French, from medieval Latin morus, from Latin morus, inhabitant of Mauritania. And, I encourage anybody to definitely go look at ancient maps of Mauritania and look at all the different ones to see how over time that geographical area known as Mauritania has changed and grown and shrunk, etc. Northwest Africa, a region now corresponding to northern Algeria and Morocco, from Greek moros, perhaps a native name. Okay, and the perhaps, that's just conjecture. When you get into the deeper and even deeper study of this particular one, you put the microscope on it, it tells you how Procopius came up with that name, and the people call themselves Maori, or else cognate with Maros or Mavros, but as you can see, it's a U, which means black. But you'll see here, and we're going to go deeper in on this because I'm going to disprove that this is an actual cognate, and we're going to discuss that. But this adjective only appears in late Greek. So notice in the early Greek, moros did not mean black. Okay. But again, this adjective only appears in late Greek, and may as well be from the people's name as the reverse. So again, it's telling you who the people are, where they were saying perhaps earlier, now they're saying, well, this is the people's name. Being a dark people in relation to Europeans, their name in the Middle Ages was a synonym for Negro. So you can see how later, okay? And we're going to touch on that as well, because that's part of unveiling this Moorish science. So that's late 16th century, 17th century, used indiscriminately of Muslims, Persians, Arabs, etc., but especially those in India. And we're going to also see in reference to that in U.S. law in South Carolina, where they actually name those Moors from India. They are called Lascars. So let me go to the next slide. Again, this is just to go back into, or to get a little bit more deeper into the basic definition as we unveil more information. And anybody listening, watching, if you're live, just put any questions in the chat. And I'm watching the chat, so any questions I see, I will respond to them to the best of my ability. So you can see here a slightly different definition, and you will notice, and this is why I wanted to do this, as you go through different dictionaries, you will find different definitions for the term and the terminology more. And so this one here, I put together the last one to be more specific. This is actually the etymology of the word more. This one here is more of a compilation of definitions of the term more. And there's even more that can go with this. Also, Moors, as you can see, indigenous Africans closely associated with the Amazi, Berbers, Kabyles, Afro-Arabs, Fulani, and other African Muslims who joined them. Ibero-Maurasians, a Neolithic people living both in Iberia and northwestern Africa. The common link with these three words is more, or more. So, under different definitions, you'll find these different terms and different spellings as let's look back where we just were, and you can see some of these different spellings. When we go back into the Old French, you see here More is one of the potential spellings. And also notice, as soon as you get into the term Moor, it says North African Berber. So these can be looked at as actual synonyms for the word or term Moor. So as we look back at it, you can see here Moors, indigenous Africans, closely associated with the Amazi Berbers. Okay. And that's a whole nother conversation. We'll do a whole nother breakdown on that. So let's move forward. Let me open that up just a little bit. So as you can see here, Berber 1832 from Arabic, name for the people or peoples being west of Egypt, perhaps ultimately from Greek barbaros, barbarians, see Barbary. But we're going to also show that that is not really true. Um, and it's because that the people had that name for themselves. The Berberine, um, the Eber, there's different variations uh, throughout the continent of Africa and the world that show that the Berber people were not called Berbers for the term barbarians that the European used. Uh, Let me see here. And actually, I think if you look at the second definition here, it's actually kind of clearer. I'll read that part because I think it makes things a little clearer. But we will touch on that some more. Circa 1300, foreign lands, especially non-Christian lands, were known as Barbary. That's what we call the Barbary Coast, Barbary pirates. From Latin, barbaria, see barbarian, and it also says meaning Saracens. This is another term for Moors, another synonym for Moors. Living in coastal North Africa is attested from 1390, the 1590s via French, Old French, barbaric, from Arabic barbar, Berber, ancient Arabic name for the inhabitants of North Africa beyond Egypt, perhaps a native name. So again, just like the term Moor, perhaps a native name again. So this is not by chance, and this is exactly what I was talking about. This is the actual people's name. So we'll continue. Perhaps an Arabic word from Barabra, which that's a whole nother class, to babble confusedly. But this might be ultimately from the Greek barbaria, the actual relations, if any, of the Arabic and Greek words cannot be settled, but in European languages, barbaria, barbary have from the first been treated as identified with El Barbaria, Byzantine Greek Barbaria, land of barbarians. But also remember, the barbarians were the people coming out of Germany. So, of course, they switched it. And if you look again here, we'll go back into barbarian next. From medieval Latin, barbarian, source of Old French, barbarin, Berber, pagan, Saracen, barbarian. So they flipped it on us. These, again, the same way they did with Moor and Black and these different terms, Negro, they just flipped the terminology. Because as you can see in the previous ones, this was our terminology already. And then from Latin, barbaria, foreign country, from Greek, barbaros, foreign, strange, ignorant, root, barbar, echoic, of intelligible speech of foreigners. Compare Sanskrit, barbara, stammering, also non-Aryan Latin, balbus, stammering, and that's a whole nother conversation we can get into, but I won't take it there. Um, but I'm going to move forward. You guys can see this. You feel free to screenshot this page, and or you can go to the source of this if you wanted to research the terminology Berber. You can go into etymonline.com, and that is one of the most complete um, etymological dictionaries available. It's a compilation of over 40 different etymological sources. So it's very thorough. Doesn't have everything, but you can get most of what you're looking for there. All right. So let's look a little bit deeper. Let me make sure I'm not missing any questions, guys. Hold on one second. All right. So no questions in the chat. So I'll keep it flowing. Um, all right. So you can see here section 1 of the Barabra that we just read about, right? Or Berberines, which I just mentioned to you. This is some of the native names that the people have for themselves, which is how the Arabic term Berber and later Greek and other European peoples adopted their version of Berber or Babar or etc. So it says here the people who inhabit the valley of the Nile above Egypt and from that country to Sennar give themselves the appellation of Berberi, as we see, right? By the Arabs, they are termed Nuba. The same people in Egypt where they are well known are called Berberines. Their general character and habits are well described by M. Costas, a member of the Egyptian Commission who was at Philae in 1799. So if you need more information, just look that up and you can get the details on those people at that time. If we look here, we have the stela from Balua, the Moabite king receiving his scepter of rule, Egyptian style. And this is circa 13th century BCE. So this is quite old. And make sure if you guys are getting anything from this information, feel free to share it. Um, let other Moors know that we're teaching over here. So this here, as you can see, Stella from Balua, the Moabite king receiving scepter of rule. And like I mentioned, this from the 13th century BCE. So this is literally 3,300 years ago. Okay. And if you look really close, you can see the style of dress that they're wearing. Notice it says Egyptian style on the actual below the picture there. And if you look, you can see the fezzes, you can see the tassels, right? See the aprons, various regalia. Look like it's straight out of ancient Egypt. Right next to it, you can see the Misha Stela, the Moabite stone, circa 840 BCE. Why are we showing this? Why are we talking about this? Because we're talking about Moorish Science Unveiled. We're taking it back 3,000 years to show you Moors have been engaged in the science for quite some time. So this is an ancient, as the prophet would say, this is the old time religion. But you can see this is also almost 3,000 years old, the Misha Stela. Okay. And you guys feel free to look that stuff up, collect pictures of your own, or you can screenshot this one and, teach this to your children so that they know we've been here for a long time. All right. Let's go to the New World Encyclopedia just for a moment. Moab, right? Because as Moors, we know we also call each other Moab, and we know we are Moabites as well. How do we know that? Well, part of how we know that is when you look at the Moorish empires, right? One of the empires was known as the Almoravids. The Almoravids were the Moabites. That is a whole nother, again, teaching. However, if you were to do just a little bit of study based on what I share here, you will be sure to find all of that information in full force. So Moab, as you can see, Hebrew, Moab, Greek, Muad, is the historical name for a mountainous strip of land in modern day Jordan, running along the eastern shore of the Dead Sea. In ancient times, it was home to the kingdom of the Moabites, a people often in conflict with their Israelite neighbors to the west. The Moabites were a historical people whose existence is attested by numerous archaeological finds, most notably the Mesha Stele, which we just covered, which describes the Moabite victory over an unnamed son of King Oman of Israel. 2 Kings 3 is where you can find that in your Bible. Their capital was Dibon, located next to the modern Jordanian town of Diban. In the Bible, the Moabites are said to be descended from Abraham's nephew, Lot, and were thus not included among the peoples to be driven out by the Israelites when they entered Canaan. However, they were among the people. That's another story, but they were not supposed to be, but they were. The Israelite tribes of Reuben and Gad settled among them, sometimes living peacefully and occasionally causing concern of disloyalty. Among their tribes, King David was a Moabite of Moabite lineage through his great grandmother Ruth. All right, so that gives us just a little bit of backstory, a little more information on Moab. Let's dig a little bit deeper. We can read the name of Moab or Moab on the base of the second of the 6 colossal statues which Ramses II erected in front of the northern pylon at the Temple of Luxor. It is here included among his conquests. The statue is the only Egyptian monument on which the name has hitherto been found, but this single mention is sufficient to guarantee its antiquity and to prove that in the days before the Exodus, it was already well known in Egypt. Patriarchal Palestine, page 22, by Professor Archibald Henry Sayce, 1895, Assyriologist and linguist who held a chair as professor of Assyriology at the University of Oxford from 1891 to 1919. So again, just touching a little bit deeper. Okay, still no questions. All right. I guess that's a good sign. So let's see what our illustrious prophet Noble Drew Ali had to say about what I just shared. Well, the inhabitants of Africa are the descendants of the ancient Canaanites from the land of Canaan. Old man Cush and his family are the first inhabitants of Africa who came from the land of Canaan. His father Ham and his family were second. Then came the word Ethiopia, which means the demarcation line of the dominion of Amexem. The first true and divine name of Africa, the dividing of the land between the Father and the Son. The dominion of Cush, northeast and southeast Africa, and northwest and southwest was his father's dominion of Africa. In later years, many of their brethren from Asia and the Holy Lands joined them. The Moabites from the land of Moab, who received permission from the pharaohs of Egypt, settled and inhabited northwest Africa. They were the founders and are the true possessors of the present Moroccan Empire. With their Canaanite, Hittite, and Amorite brethren who sojourned from the land of Canaan, seeking new homes. Okay. And this information goes so deep and touches on so much history that it's really just scratching the surface. We can do whole classes, history classes on this. I implore anybody who is listening or watching to look into our illustrious sister, Dana Reynolds Marnici. She is a great researcher, historian. She doesn't claim to be a technically an anthropologist, but she is a leading researcher in the field of anthropology, especially in relation to our people and our history. All right. Again, any new people that are on, feel free to put any questions in the chat. I'll be glad to answer any questions. But let's continue with Moab. I want to show this connection, give you guys some more insight on what it is that we're actually talking about here. So, Moab is also a language that is spoken in Ghana as well, and is actually part of the Gur language family, belongs to the Niger Congo language family, also classified as Sunufo or Sunufic languages, spoken to the north of the Ivory Coast, the south of Mali, and the southwest of Burkina Faso. So over 5 million people speak this language in sub-Saharan Africa. Many people will try to claim that the Moors do not exist within sub-Saharan Africa, but as we can see here, the Mosi people, which are a Islamic people who wear fezzes and celebrate their holy day on a Friday. I used to live next door to a beautiful family from Burkina Faso, and they used to see me on holy day with my fez, and they would be like, "Brother, in my home, we this is our holy day as well." And so that was great seeing that and hearing that. But I had already started studying this language called Moab. The interesting thing is that the language is also called Moor or More. So let's look into that. So Moab, in the language of Moab, also it means African people. Um, it's interchangeable with the term Moba as well. So you can see use Moba, African people, Moab, the language, use Moba is also language. So the term Moba and Moab and More are interchangeable in this language called Moab or More, and it all means in the language African people and or language. Okay, you can find this information in the Library of Congress. Subject heading, I might have cut a piece of this off, but if you type this information in and the book that this information actually comes from is a CIA book in the Library of Congress that basically catalogs different peoples and languages from around the world. So it's a very I haven't cracked it open in a long time, but like I said, if you type this in, you'll be able to find it on Google. As you can see here, in the language Moab, the term Moors also means African people. Use More. You can see how it's spelled African people, Moors people, and this is in that same book. This is also from that same book. You can see. Let's see here. Mosi. So the people that speak Mor or More or Moab are known as the Mosi. Mosi are also African people, right? More, Gurma languages. We just talked about that the language More or Moab is a Gur language, right? A Gurma language is from that family. Moab, African peoples, right? Moba again, African peoples. Moab language use, Moba language, Moab, but this is in relation to Utah, right? So it's giving you, we're in that book and it's talking. Remember, I said that this particular book is dealing with all of the different ethnicities, etc., from around the world and languages. If you look at the bottom there, you can see Moabites, ethnology, Jordan, Semites, which goes back to our first slide on Moab relating to Jordan. But you can see also, so these African people are Semites. Okay. There was a lot of talk, a lot of argument, I guess a few months back when Kanye and Kyrie made a few comments dealing with Semites. And as you can see here, the Moabites, the Moors, we are Semitic people that cannot be argued. Uh, if you don't like it, I don't know what to tell you. But let's go to the next slide. All right, so we're just going a little bit further back into antiquity. As you can see here, the term mera, right? This is also a derivation of Moor in Africa. As you can see in ancient times, that ancient Gibbs, which we often call Egypt, was not uh, Kemet. Now, there was a time where Kemet was used to signify that land, but remember that was during Greek and foreign rule. So let's not to get too tied up with the Kemet thing. Let's keep an open mind. So as you can see here, and you can find this. I want to say this is volume 2. It could be volume 1, but I believe this is volume 2 of Ancient Egyptian Dictionary by Wallace E. Budge. Mera, an ancient name of Egypt. Ptah Mera, the land of Mera. Okay, so Mera uh, was Egypt. Okay, now this should be interesting here. Ta Merau, right? So Ta meaning land, right? Merau, and you can see here the people of the land of the Nile flood, the Egyptians. The Egyptians were known as Ta Merau. Merau. So this is also a relation to Moors. As you can see, it's not nothing that we can really hide from or that we're even trying to put together. But this is during that same time. And remember that the Moabites were next door neighbors to the ancient Tamarians. Okay. Now let's go a little bit further here. This is dealing with Mauritania, which we touched on earlier. And we'll just start at the top. 1,000 years after the voyage of Hanno, a Roman scribe, Procopius of Caesarea, secretary to Belisarius in Justinian's Vandal War in Africa, wrote that in his day there existed near Tangier 2 white columns of stone by a gushing spring. On these were inscribed in the Phoenician language, "We have fled before the face of Joshua, the robber son of Nun." Procopius explains that the inhabitants of these parts were descended from the Canaanites expelled before the children of Israel, whom he appears to have confused with the early Phoenician settlers. But whatever the truth may have been, the Arab historians also attribute a Canaanitish origin to the Roberts. To the Roberts, assigning a more recent date to their expulsion. All right. So again, this is going back to the people being expelled from Canaan. We read a piece from our prophet on that. We also read another piece on that as well. So that's just kind of bringing it back in. So now that we're touching and talking about this location, we also need to touch on Judah, right? So Judah, you can see the sons of Leah, Reuben, Jacob's firstborn, and Simeon and Levi and Judah and Issachar and Zebulun, right? The word of the Lord, which came upon Zephaniah, the son of Cushi, the son of Jedaliah, the son of Amariah, the son of Hezekiah, in the days of Josiah, the son of Ammon, king of Judah. And Judah saw there a daughter of a certain Canaanite, and he took her and went in unto her. So you can see the Judah connection, and I'm touching that for a reason. So let's go into this next section. All right, just waiting for that screen to switch over. All right, so now this is from the questionnaire, right, for the Moorish Science Temple of America. and it's gonna cover a few things that we just talked about. So these are questions from 24 to 33, and it should cover a lot of other questions, and hopefully it provokes some questions. Would love to see a few questions in the chat. Who was Jesus? He was a prophet of Allah. Where was he born? In Bethlehem of Judah, in the house of David, right? So where was he born? In Bethlehem of Judah, in the house of David. So we just talked about Judah. We've covered David, right? So now we know Jesus was a prophet of Allah. Who were his father and mother? Joseph and Mary. Will you give a brief line genealogy through which Jesus came? Some of the great fathers through which Jesus came are Abraham, Boaz by Ruth, right? We just touched on Ruth. We also touched on Abraham, Jesse, King David, again, Solomon, Hezekiah, again, and Joseph by Mary. Why did Allah send Jesus to the earth? To save the Israelites from the iron hand oppression of the pale skinned nations of Europe who were governing a portion of Palestine at that time. How long has it been? About 2,000 years. What was the nationality of Ruth? Ruth was a Moabitess. What is the modern name for Moabites? Moroccans. We covered that as well early in the presentation. So if you missed that part, when this is over, just rewind it back to the beginning and we'll cover that. What is the name for Moabites? Moroccans. Where is the Moroccan Empire? Northwest Amexem. What is the modern name for Amexem? Africa. All right, so let's move forward to the next slide. As we can see here, this is going to take us a little bit deeper into the people, into our people, into who we are. We are our forefathers without doubt or contradiction. The Amorites, a branch of the ancient Libyan race of Semitic origin, inhabiting Canaan before the arrival of the Israelites from Egypt. Canaanites, one of the main branches of the great Semitic family inhabiting Palestine and Mauritanian seacoast in ancient times, including Jews, Phoenicians, Carthaginians, Moabites, Amorites, Idumeans, and Philistines, a fierce and warlike people with a remarkable genius for religion, which has greatly influenced the modern world. Ethiopians, an ancient Berber tribe settled in Egypt at least 5,000 years ago, now represented by the fair Berbers of Mauritania. Homer called them blameless because he knew so little about them. Now, that's a different conversation we'll have to have another time, dealing with Homer and why he called them blameless. There's more writings on that go a little bit deeper, but we're not going to touch on that today. We're going to go a little bit deeper into this word Ethiopian, right? So Ethiopian, as you can see here in the Old Testament, you'll see Ethiopian also translates to Cush or Cushi, right? And you can see here under G128, like in the middle of your screen, Ethiops, right? That's going back to the etymology of Ethiopia. Now let's look at Jeremiah, because this is key in dealing with the Moors as well, because the term or word Ethiopian is interchangeable with Moor. So can the Ethiopian change his skin, or the leopard his spots? Then may ye also do good that are accustomed to do evil. And Ebed-melech the Ethiopian said unto Jeremiah, put now these old cast clouts and rotten rags under thine armholes, under the cords. And Jeremiah did so. Now, why did I even read that? Well, let me show you. So when we go into a different translation of the Bible, the Geneva Bible specifically, if you're a Moor, if you're in the Moorish Science Temple, if you're interested in Moorish Science, you should definitely get you a copy. Even if you get you a free copy online, you can do that as well. But look here what it says in Jeremiah, and I think we got 7 or 6 different scripts, and there's actually 8 times that the term Moor is used in the Bible. And you can see here Jeremiah 13:23. Can the black Moor change his skin, or the leopard his spots? Then may ye also do good that are accustomed to do evil. Did we just read that? Hold on. We just read that, right? Everybody's paying attention. I'm going to go back here. Can the Ethiopian change his skin, or the leopard his spots? Then may ye also do good that are accustomed to do evil. Can the black Moor change his skin, or the leopard his spots? Then may ye also do good that are accustomed to do evil. And again, now when Ebdemelech, ye black Moor, one of the eunuchs which was in the king's house, heard that they had put Jeremiah in the dungeon, then the king sat in the gate of Benjamin. Okay. And you can see here it continues to go on. Feel free to take a screenshot of that. I want you guys to, have this information. And again, please ask questions, because that's what we're here for. We're here to learn. I don't claim to know everything. I'm just here to share a few things that it's come along my way in my research. And as I mentioned just a minute ago, I want you guys to take a good look at this here. All right. So this is a page from Ella Levita's 16th century Hebrew, Latin, German dictionary. Contains a list of nations, including the words Cushite or Cushi, translated to Latin as Ethiops and into German as Moor. Okay. Let's look and see if we can find that. Maybe you guys already found it. Boom. Moor. Okay. Ethiops. That's Ethiopian. All right. Let's go back just for a second. Ethiops. Ethiops. That's the Greek. Okay. Got it. All right. Just wanted to make sure everybody was on the same page. Now we're going to jump ahead and touch on a little bit of Light and Truth by Robert Benjamin Lewis. Definitely put this in your library. This is an excellent book. I think all Moors should have this in their library. You will benefit from this. Okay, so Michael the Moorishite, a prophet of the Moors. By the way, this book was written in the 1700s, y'all. So check this out. This brother was definitely on point. Prophesied in the days of Hezekiah, king of Judah. Now, what were we talking about? See, some of the stuff I've done today, I don't know if y'all seen how I'm piecing this all together and showing you and weaving all of this information together for you to give you kind of like breadcrumbs now you can go ahead and say, oh, okay, let me look that up. And now you'll have the full picture on everything that I've shown you today. It will definitely illuminate this whole situation. That's why we're unveiling Moorish science, right? So again, let me start over here. Light and Truth by Robert Benjamin Lewis. Micah the Moorishite, again, the Moorishite, a prophet of the Moors, prophesied in the days of Hezekiah, king of Judah, and spake to all the people of Judah, the Moors, saying, Thus saith the Lord of hosts, Zion shall be plowed like a field, and Jerusalem shall become heaps of forest. Micah showeth the wrath of God against Jacob for idolatry. Masarath was built by the Moors in the desert of Paran, in the land of Amalek, and was the ancient encampment of Israel in the days of Moses. In the Moorish War of Adel in Africa, some of the books of Moses were burnt. Moriah, a hill adjacent to Jerusalem on the northeast, Here, Abraham offered his son. When Solomon built the temple on it, it became included in the city. The appellation of Moor is given to those successors of Muhammad, pagans, Christians, and Jews, who extended their empire through North Africa, South Europe, etc. Again, this is from the same book. The word Negro, is derived from the Latin term Niger, meaning black. Okay? Niger, a Latin word, was formerly used by the Moors, the old Romans, to designate any black inferior object, a plant, a marsh, flat, moist ground, bog, or animal. Okay, that is so clear. Like the term Negro in Niger, and the term black, and the term nigger all mean the same thing. And what did the Moors use it to designate? Any black inferior object, not a human. In fact, it could only be referenced to a plant, a marsh, flat, moist, ground, bog, or animal. Now, notice when you go and look up other definitions of Moor, it's dealing with marsh, flat, moist, ground, bog, right? If you go and research that, you'll see that. So those are the the inanimate objects that the term Niger or nigger refers to when that object is black. So, yeah, anyway, Micah, the Mortashite, a prophet of the Moors, prophesied in the days of Hezekiah, king of Judah, and spake to all the people of Judah the Moors, saying, Thus saith the Lord of hosts, Zion shall be plowed like a field, and Jerusalem shall become heaps, which we just touched. So you can see those are pages 339 and 340. So you can go back there and you can almost see that our prophet was definitely studying this material, because it is quite clear, to me at least. Now let's touch a little bit deeper, and maybe some of you have seen this, maybe some of you haven't. But the Negro Law of South Carolina, which I was referencing earlier, dealing with the Moors of India, right? You can see chapter 1, and it states here, the state of the Negro, his rights and disabilities. Wow. Okay. Section 4. And you guys can all pull this up. I advise you to definitely pull this up for yourself so that you have knowledge of this yourself. The term Negro is confined to slave Africans, the ancient Berbers, and their descendants. It does not embrace the free inhabitants of Africa, such as the Egyptians, Moors, or the Negro Asiatics, such as the Lascars. Now, notice here, this is wordplay. So let's read it again, because there's a lot going on here. I won't belabor it, but I just want to make sure we're touching it. The term Negro is confined, meaning can only be used, right, with or for, to slave Africans. So these Africans could be Egyptians, because Egyptians are African. These Africans could be Moors, because Moors are African. These Africans could be Asiatics, but the Asiatics don't necessarily have to be from Africa, per se, right? Because there's Afro-Asiatic and this, so that, but what it's saying here is that if you identify as a Moor, for those who are familiar with the free sundry Moors of South Carolina and what happened in South Carolina during that time, you will definitely be aware that the free sundry Moors were able to demonstrate that they were Moors and that they were actually had rights. Yes, my dear.
Can I get some more rice?
You sure can, my love. Hold on one second, fam. All right, so let's see here. Okay, go to this next one. So you can see here, it's going a little bit deeper back into the language here, right? So the masculine or feminine noun, black man or black woman, and here's a sentence: trabajar como un negro. So the informal figurative, to work like a slave, right? So you can say trabajar como un negro or trabajar como un negra. And it's saying I work like a slave, a man or a woman. But the key here is the term Negro being used to reference the slave status. So I wanted that to be full clarity. All right. So as you can see here, so based on my research, Moor and Black are in fact false cognates. As they said earlier, when I showed you some etymology, it tried to say that these terms were actually cognate, but they're in fact false cognates. So those are pairs of words in the same or different languages that are similar in form and meaning, but have different roots. That is, they appear to be or sometimes considered cognates when in fact they are unrelated. This is the same thing with the term niggas, right? Or negus, or you might even see naga. These terms have no relationship to the term nigger or Niger or any of these relatives like Negro. Okay. They're what you'll call a false cognate. Okay. So the Moors created the Spanish language from combining Arabic and Latin and also some Castilian. A Moor's proper designation in Spanish is moreno, which means por el sol or from the sun, which is dark, swarthy, tanned, brown. This is accurate scientifically and respectful. In the Spanish language, those who speak it or are familiar with it know that in the Spanish language, it is designed to be very mindful and respectful of elders, of children, of groups of people, of men, women, etc., objects. So the difference here is that in the Spanish language, to use the term Negro or negro for a human is a pejorative. It's a way to put someone down, right? And notice here, it actually says informal. So this is slang. And, notice even in slang, it means slave. So this is not a good term to use to reference yourself or ourself, or if you're not of the Moorish persuasion, we prefer that you not reference us as Negroes. Thank you. Okay. Now, since we're dealing with more science, we're dealing with Islam and Islamism, we got to touch on the meaning of Islam because I want to show what more science is and what Islamism is. And I'll read this briefly. And so, what is Islam? By Noble Drew Ali, the Prophet. This is from the Moorish Guide, National Edition. Let me make it a little bit bigger for myself here. Islam is a very simple faith. It requires man to recognize his duties towards God, Allah, his creator, and his fellow creatures. It teaches the supreme duty of living at peace with one's surroundings. It is preeminently the religion of peace. The very name Islam means peace. The goal of man's life, according to Islam, is peace with everything, peace with Allah, and peace with man. Excuse me, family. The Quran, the holy book of Islam, tells us that the final abode of man is the house of peace, where no vain word or sinful discourse will be heard. The holy divine prophet Noble Drew Ali says that a follower of Islam, in the true sense of the word, is one whose hands, tongue, and thoughts do not hurt others. The object of man's life, according to Islam, is its complete unfoldment. Islam teaches that man is born with unlimited capacities for progress. Islam does not support the idea that man is born in sin. It teaches that everyone has within him the seed of perfect development, and it rests solely with himself to make or mar his fortune. The cardinal doctrine of Islam is the unity of the Father Allah. We believe in one God, Allah, who is all God, all mercy, and all power. He is perfect and holy, all wisdom, all knowledge, and all truth. There are some of his great attributes. Are some of his great attributes, so far as we can understand. He is free from all defects, holy and transcendent. He is personal to us, insofar as we can see his attributes working for us. But he is nevertheless impersonal, because he is infinite, perfect, and holy. We do not believe that death, decay, or sleep overtake him. Neither do we believe that he is helplessly inactive and inert force. Nothing happens without his knowledge and will. He neither begets nor is he begotten, because these are the traits of frail and weak humanity. The unity of Allah is the first and foremost pillar of Islam, and every other belief hangs upon it. So hopefully that gives a little more insight into what Islam actually is. Now, this is going to illuminate or elucidate what Islamism is. So everything that we just spoke about, combined with civics, government, meaning uh, no separation of church and state, right? This is the ancient Islam, which is called Islamism, that the Moors practiced in West Africa, where they would bring their civics into their religion. So civics, by definition, a branch of political science that deals with civic affairs and the rights and duties of citizens, right? Civics is the study of the theoretical and practical aspects of citizenship, its rights and duties, the duties of citizens to each other as members of a political body and to the government. It includes the study of civil law and civil code and the study of government with attention to the role of citizens as opposed to external factors in the operation and oversight of government. All right. So basically, that's pretty simple. Who made you? Allah. Who is Allah? Allah is the Father of the universe. Can we see him? No. Where's the nearest place we can meet him? In the heart. Okay. So again, we're getting into this Moorish science and how we unveiling it. We touched on history. We ran down the line, who the Moors are, why the Moors are. Now we're dealing with what the Moors actually practice. What is the Moorish science? So let's deal with this chapter 10, right? We just read a few questions. We read questions 1 through 4, right? Who made you? Allah. Who is Allah? Allah is the Father of the universe. Can we see him? No, because we don't deal with spookism. Where is the nearest place we can meet him? In the heart. The Quran teaches us that Allah says that he is closer than our jugular vein. Okay. So let's read chapter 10 in the Holy Quran for the Moorish Science Temple of America. Jesus spake on the unity of Allah and man to the Hindus. So I'm just going to read through this quickly. You guys feel free to read along. Get a screenshot if you like. Benares is the sacred city of the Brahms. And in Benares, Jesus taught. Udraka was his host. Udraka made a feast in honor of his guests. And many high-born Hindu priests and scribes were there. And Jesus said to them with much delight, I speak to you concerning life, the brotherhood of life. The universal law is one, yet he is more than one. All things are one. By the sweet breath of Allah, all life is bound in one. So if you touch a fiber of a living thing, you send a thrill from the center to the outer bounds of life. And when you crush beneath your foot the meanest worm, you shake the throne of Allah and cause the sword of life to tremble in its sheath. The bird sings out its song for men, and men vibrate in unison to help it sing. The ant constructs her home, the bee its sheltering comb, the spider weaves her web, and flowers breathe to them a spirit in their sweet perfume that gives them strength to toil. Now men and birds and beasts and creeping things are deities made flesh. And how dare men kill anything? It is cruelty that makes the world awry. When men have learned that when they harm a living thing, they harm themselves, they surely will not kill, nor cause a thing that Allah has made to suffer pain. A lawyer said, I pray to Jesus, tell who is this Allah you speak about? Where are his priests, his temples, and his shrines? And Jesus said that Allah I speak about is everywhere. He cannot be compassed with walls, nor hedged about with bounds of any kind. All people worship Allah, the One, but all the people see him not alike. This universal Allah is wisdom, will, and love. All men see not the triune Allah. One sees him as a law of might, another as a law of thought, another as a law of love. Now again, we're just breaking down this Moorish science, we unveiling it. So hopefully that has brought a little more clarity to what it is that we're touching on today. Now I want to touch a little bit more on Act 6, if I can. Act 6 in the Moorish Science Temple Divine Constitution and Bylaws. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are part and partial of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Drew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwest and southwestern shores of Africa. Just piecing it all together, family. Here's 3 more questions from our questionnaire. 70. What is the higher self? The higher self is the mother of virtues and the harmonies of life, and breeds justice, mercy, love, and right. Can the higher self pass away? No. Why? Because it is Allah in man. Now we just read what Jesus taught to the Hindus. We've read through some other passages that basically said the same thing. I quoted the Quran of Mecca that clearly stated that Allah is closer than your own jugular vein. So hopefully that gives you an idea. With that, I'm going to look and make sure we have no more questions. I don't want to belabor any longer. We've already been on for an hour and 11 minutes. I pray that this demonstration has brought some clarity, has possibly enlightened some of you. And if not, maybe one day it will. But this was just a basic breakdown of Moorish science, and we will come to you with more of these in the very near future. Um, and again, I'm going to use your questions and comments to decide exactly which direction we move these demonstrations into. So just let me know what it is that you want to learn, what it is that you want to talk about, and we'll go live. And as time progresses, we'll get a little more fancy and get some theme music in here and different things like that. But just wanted to touch on that just to get us started. And with that, I say peace, Islam.